Chapter 17. Josephine protested at every turn as we made our way to Saint Charles General. She insisted she was fine, except for a scratch on her arm and a tear in her dress. Valdes and I, politely, ignored her at every turn. Valdes dropped me, my booze, and a cigar off on the outskirts of the parking lot where the hospital abutted a dense, wooded nature preserve that neighbored the city. A few years prior, there had been some violent attacks in those woods. Will Jacoby at the Sentinel had reported on them, describing the attacks as the result of a bear population reacting to city and suburban encroachment. I wasn't convinced back then, and when I found a rock to squat on, my back to those dense woods, I wasn't any more convinced today, as I felt the unmistakable tingle of creep walking up my spine while I waited for Valdes to circle back for me. I didn't just resist the urge to glance over my shoulder at the woods. I straight up took a fucking shit on it. I took a long swig from my emergency booze, safely wrapped in a brown paper bag and hidden from the dumbest of fucks, and silently invited any deranged, psychotic bear monster to explode from the woods and shred me to pieces. Sure, such an attack might be the most agonizing pain I'd ever experienced, but just think of all the feelings I'd never have to feel again. Between puffs of the cigar, a wave of woozy nausea swept over me and turned my stomach. I wasn't sure if that was courtesy of the blood loss and the beatdown I had just endured, or if it was the hospital's black hole of emotional distress and the sheer fucking exhaustion of the day. And that wasn't even acknowledging the weight of what was yet to come at the rally. Yeah, do your fucking worst, secret monster bear of the woods. I poured some more booze down my throat in an attempt to drown the nausea. The wooziness didn't abate, and, alright, yeah, I was probably borderline delirious. The invisible gravitational force of Saint Charles General made the pull twinge in my chest. Or maybe that was just a mild cardiac episode instead of a surprise bear attack. The fact that this was my second time today at this fucking hospital made me tip the bottle again. I puffed. I ached. I drank some more. And I waited. For bears, monsters, Valdes, and anything else the world wanted to throw at me. All the while, Malachi was a fucking virus that twisted like a corkscrew through my brain, chewing on what little functioning gray matter I had left. Let's chalk the mixed metaphors up to the delirium. As insufferable as Malachi had become after Gertie died, the idea that my older brother would align himself with the Sons of the Golden Future still felt absurd, despite what my bruised face and my swelling eye tried to tell me. While my brain couldn't rationalize it, my gut said it made perfect sense. Just like it was a short leap from white supremacy to male supremacy, it was probably just as short a leap from religion to religious extremism, and an even shorter leap to fascist authoritarianism. I mean, just look at all the shit carried out in God's name. Or maybe they just use God as an excuse to be assholes, empowering the most extreme fuckheads among their ranks. Religion had a way of normalizing extremism, and when it no longer became socially beneficial to call it religion, the powers that be rebranded their belief system as politics. The entire institution was fine-tuned to radicalize and weaponize people. People like Malachi. People like Beckett Miller. Shit, Malachi went from a right-wing evangelical Jesus freak to a card-carrying white supremacist in just a few short years. Probably even less than that. Beckett Miller was a blank slate and got radicalized in months. It's no wonder Josephine always tells me to resist succumbing to anger and hate. Before the monster bear could leap from the woods, Valdes pulled up in the truck. Come on, let's go. I took a final pull on the cigar before grinding it out on the rock I was sitting on. I pushed myself to my feet, groaning all the way, and climbed into the truck. Valdes watched my hobbled progress with a weary eye. You still think this rally tonight is a good idea, or did these fucking psychopathic snail-brained fuckwits beat some goddamn sense into that thick skull of yours? She asked. Drive. She did. And when we got to the Saint Charles Sentinel, or at least what was left of the city newspaper after a decades-long decline of print publishing, and after Will Jacoby scooped it up, dumped the presses, and switched to an all-digital distribution model, Valdes swiped her keycard, taking us directly to the employee lounge at the heart of the building. The expansive space made more sense when the newsroom bustled 24 hours a day, and the printing presses ran off morning and evening editions. Booths ran along the back wall for privacy, and dinette tables filled the main space. Centrally located was a bank of 3 wall-mounted televisions, displaying an animated Saint Charles Sentinel logo. A foosball and an air hockey table were tucked in a corner, and the refrigerators, vending machines, coffee pots, and other kitchen staples were on the opposite end of the space. Kitchen staples that included a well-stocked first aid kit. Well, maybe well-stocked 20 years ago, Valdes muttered as she inspected a tube of Neosporin. This shit expired a long time ago. It'll do, I said, peeling off my bloodied shirt and laying it on top of my jacket that Valdes had placed on the back of a chair. She kicked out a chair and told me to sit, before jogging over to the ice machine and filling a plastic shopping bag. She tied off the handles and tossed it at me. For your face, Valdes said, nodding at my swollen eye. I mean, you gotta at least try and look pretty for your wannabe Nazi boyfriend, right? I offered a less than approving guttural response before pressing the improvised ice pack to my face. The sting of cold made me hiss. And if you think that's bad. With her thumb over the spout of the antiseptic wound cleaner, she shook the bottle liberally over my back, rinsing the worst of the knife cuts with alcohol. I winced and hunched over the chair. Yeah, I have no idea how old this shit is, but I'm guessing it probably doesn't get smoother with age, Valdes mused, as the cleaner fizzed against the cuts. If you could maybe enjoy this a little less. Tell me you'll blow off the rally, and maybe I'll muster a bit of sympathy. She laid out a series of butterfly bandages on the table before patting my back dry with paper towels. You saw what those fuckers did at the library, I said. Yeah, and you saw what they did to our John Doe at the hospital this morning, Valdes shot back. Officer Shithit Sampson already tried to frame you for that one, not to mention how many other lynchings these cocksuckers are responsible for. She smoothed the last of the bandages across my back, before sitting across from me. Abe, listen, I don't know why you can't see that going to this rally tonight is tantamount to goddamn suicide, especially after what you just went through. I've been in worse fixes. Abe. I pulled the ice pack away from my face and met her gaze. Her dark eyes had gone painfully big, and those brows were deeply knitted. She was genuinely worried about me. Like, maybe a shitty expired Band-Aid wouldn't be nearly enough to hold my busted ass together after tonight. Again, I marveled at how this person could have such complex emotions, yet they never once triggered the pull. Maybe she was from another world. In a move that surprised me as I was doing it, I took Valdez's hand in my own. She was almost doll-like in my meaty paw. Listen, Valdes. Her face scrunched up, and she pulled her hand back. All right, fuck off with that shit. I just don't want to see you dead is all. The light in the room changed, and Valdes glanced over at the wall-mounted televisions. The fuck is that? The animated logo had been replaced with a view of the Sentinel streaming studio. It was a wide shot with a table and chairs in the middle, oversized television screens providing a high-tech background, and studio lights were visible at the edges of the shot. Someone was manipulating the camera, and the shot zoomed in, tightening on the desk, while removing the lights from the shot. Sunday is the fucking epitome of a slow news day, Valdes muttered, watching the screen in confusion. No one works, no one broadcasts. What the hell is going on in there? On the television, a man stepped into the shot and adjusted the table, pulling it away from the wall a few extra inches. He wore jeans, a brown dress vest, and a white dress shirt. Valdes stood and grabbed her messenger bag from the chair. That's Will. I'm going to give him the councilman photos and find out what's going on, she said. Sit tight and, put a shirt on or something. Valdes exited through a door on the far side of the room, and I pulled my shirt back on. An unexpected fuck you level of confidence filled my chest and made me stand a little straighter. I glanced over my shoulder just in time to see the door we had first entered swing open, and a young girl in jeans and a t-shirt step through. A keycard badge on a lanyard displayed her photo and identified her as a member of the press. She chewed gum as she held the door open, gesturing to the employee lounge. You can wait in here until Will is ready for you, she said in a monotone. The person she spoke to stepped through the doorway, and I recognized the source of that fuck you confidence. The girl closed the door behind him, and the District 3 councilman stood alone. He was still wearing his blue suit and red tie. The last time I saw him, looking down from the parking garage, I couldn't really appreciate how tall he was. Now, I pegged him at 6'5" or 6'6", taller than me, and accentuated even more with how skinny the fucker was. Councilman White's eyes locked on me, and a smarmy politician's grin spread across his face. He stepped forward and extended his hand. "Ernest White, District 3, he said, a faint southern twang in his voice.